Two young sisters were playing in the grass during a family picnic at their North Carolina vacation house. Their parents turned away for only a few minutes to put things in the car. By the time they looked back, the girls were gone. For more than 10 years, every clue led nowhere. But 11 years later, a man filming his treasure hunt with a metal detector noticed a strange reading near an oak tree. What he dug up would provide answers no one was ready for. The phone rang just as June Morrison was sitting down with her morning coffee. She didn't know the number on the screen, but the early time made her stomach feel tight with a strange sense of fear. She answered on the third ring. "Mrs. Morrison, this is Detective Harrison with the Forest County Police. I need you to come to the station right away. We found something related to your daughter's case." The coffee cup fell from June's hands and broke on the kitchen floor. It had been 14 years since anyone had called about Emma and Sophie. Her hands shook as she held the phone tighter. "What? What did you find?" Her voice was almost a whisper. "Ma'am, I'd rather talk about this in person. Can you come to the station? It's important." June's husband, Marcus, came into the room. Worried by the noise, she looked at him, and he knew right away. Even after all these years, they could understand each other without words when it came to their daughters. During the drive to the police station, June's mind went back to that terrible day 14 years ago. It had been a very warm July, perfect for their yearly trip to the vacation house. The girls had been so happy. Emma, only 4, held her favorite stuffed rabbit, and Sophie, 7, was already trying to act like a grown-up, carefully packing. Her special thermos bottle, the metal one with butterfly stickers she put on it herself. The picnic had been perfect at first. They had laid their blanket in the same spot as always, near the edge of the woods where the tall pine trees gave them shade, but far enough away so they could watch the girls play on the grass. Sophie had been teaching Emma how to do cartwheels, and they were both laughing as Emma's little legs went everywhere but up. "I'll start cleaning up," June had told Marcus, and started to pick up the paper plates and leftover food. He had helped her, and they both made trips back to the car with the cooler and picnic basket. It couldn't have been more than 10 minutes, 15 at the most. When they went back for the blanket, the girls were gone. At first, they had called for them calmly. "Sophie, Emma, time to go." But when it stayed quiet, their calm calls turned into panicked screams. They had looked in the area right around them, then called the police. Search teams looked through the forest for weeks. People from 3 counties came to help. But it was as if the ground had just opened up and swallowed her. Daughter's Detective Harrison was waiting for them in the station lobby, his face serious. He was younger than the detective who worked on the case at first, but his eyes had the same mix of professional calm and real sympathy. "Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, please come with me." He led them to a small meeting room where another detective was waiting. On the table was a sealed and labeled evidence box. June's legs felt weak as she sat in a chair. 3 days ago, a blogger named Mike Garrett was in the forest with his metal detector. Detective Harrison started. He has a treasure hunting channel online and posts videos of what he finds. He was looking near the old part of the forest when his detector went crazy near a large oak tree. The detective showed them a picture of a metal detector screen. The red numbers showed 99, a very high reading. He thought he'd found something valuable, maybe old coins. The signal was so strong he spent hours digging carefully. What he found, Harrison stopped, clearly finding it hard to go on. He found human bones, and this, with gloved hands. The detective took a clear evidence bag out of the box. Inside was a metal thermos bottle, old and dirty, but she knew it right away. June could still see parts of butterfly stickers stuck to it. "No," June whispered, reaching for the bag with shaking hands. That's Sophie's thermos. She had it at the picnic. She was so proud of it. She wouldn't let Emma drink from it because she said Emma would make it sticky. Her voice broke completely. Marcus held her shoulders as Detective Harrison went on gently. There were also pieces of cloth that matched the clothes, to green and white checkered pattern. Sophie's favorite dress, the one she had insisted on wearing to the picnic, even though June had said shorts would be better for playing. But Sophie had loved how the skirt flew out when she spun. We were able to get enough of the remains, too. Identifier. The dental records show it's Sophie. The room started to spin. June heard herself crying as if from far away. She felt Marcus's arms around her, but she couldn't really feel it. Her 7-year-old daughter, her smart, bossy, beautiful Sophie, had been lying in the cold ground just miles from where they had looked for her. All these years of hoping, of making up stories where both girls had been taken but were still alive, cared for by someone who just wanted kids of their own. This changes everything, Detective Harrison said softly. This is no longer a missing persons case. It's a murder investigation. We're reopening everything, looking at every lead again. Every person who was questioned 14 years ago. About Emma? Marcus asked, his voice rough. Was there any sign of Emma? Not at this spot, but we're starting a bigger search right away. Every person and tool we have is being used. We're going to check every inch of that forest. If Emma is... He paused, picking his words carefully. If there's anything to find, we'll find it. You think she could still be alive? June said, understanding what he wasn't saying. If someone took them, and only Sophie is buried there, then maybe. Emma. We can't rule anything out right now, Detective Harrison said. That's why we need your help. We need you to stay in the area while we search. Can you do that? I know you live 3 hours away now, but the holiday home, Marcus cut in. We still own it. We couldn't sell it, but we haven't been back since. We can stay there. Detective Harrison nodded. That would be helpful. We'll need to go over everything again. Everyone who was there that day. Anyone who knew your habits. Anyone who seemed unusually interested in the girls or the case. I know you've been through this before, but with this new evidence, something might seem important now that didn't before. June stared at the evidence bag with Sophie's thermos. Such a small thing to lead to such a big discovery, she thought. Of Mike Garrett, the treasure hunter, hoping to find old coins or jewelry, but instead finding every parent's worst nightmare. The metal detector reading 99, looking for treasure and finding tragedy instead. When can we see her? June asked quietly. Sophie, when can we? The medical examiner still needs to finish the full exam, but yes, once that's done, we can. Make plans for you too. To say goodbye properly. 14 years of not knowing had ended with the worst possible answer for Sophie. But as June held Marcus's hand, she felt a tiny spark of something she thought was gone forever. Hope. If someone had kept Emma, if there was even the smallest chance her baby girl was still alive somewhere, they had to try. We'll go to the house today, June said, getting up on shaky legs. And Detective Harrison, thank you for calling us yourself. For handling this so kindly, the detective nodded. We're going to find out what happened to your daughters, Mrs. Morrison. I promise you that. The gravel of the driveway made a crunching sound under their tires as Marcus turned onto the familiar path. June's breath caught in her throat as the vacation house appeared through the pine trees. It looked exactly the same. The old wood siding, the porch that wrapped around the house where the girls used to play board games on rainy days, the tire swing still hanging from the old maple tree, its rope now old and gray. Marcus turned off the engine, and they sat in silence for a moment. Neither of them wanted to be the first to open the door to break the seal on this time capsule of their old life. We don't have to do this, Marcus said quietly. We could stay at a hotel in town. June shook her head. The detective said they might need us at any moment. And if Emma is out there somewhere, I want to be close. The front door was a little stuck, swollen from years of not being used. When it finally opened, the musty air rushed out to meet them. Dust floated in the afternoon sunlight that was coming through the windows. Everything was just as they had left it on that last panicked night 14 years ago, when they had finally given up waiting by the phone and gone back to the city, not able to stand another minute in the house that was filled with the silence of their missing daughters. June walked through the rooms like a ghost. The living room still had the family photos on the fireplace mantel. Their last Christmas together, Sophie missing her 2 front teeth and Emma covered in cookie frosting. A beach trip from the year before, both girls building sandcastles with great focus. In the kitchen, her heart stopped. Emma's drawings were still on the refrigerator, held up with alphabet magnets. Simple crayon drawings labeled Emma May and Dia Dia and SOF in Emma's 4-year-old writing. A drawing of their house with very large flowers and a smiling sun. June traced the waxy lines with shaking fingers. "The search teams are meeting at the ranger station," Marcus said gently, touching her shoulder. "We should check in. Let them know we're here." The ranger station was at the edge of the forest and was now being used as a main office for the search. Police cars, volunteer cars, and news vans filled the usually empty parking lot. Yellow tape marked off different areas, and police officers directed the organized activity. That's when June saw him. Park Ranger Mitchell was standing near a folding table covered in maps, pointing something out to a group of volunteers. His hair was grayer now. His uniform was tighter around his middle, but she knew him right away. The same overly helpful way of acting, the same way of putting himself in the middle of everything. June's skin felt strange, with the same unease she had felt 14 years ago. Mitchell had been the ranger on duty that day, the last official person to see her girls alive when he had checked the picnic area. During the first search, he had been everywhere, organizing volunteers, suggesting search areas, giving his ideas. Too involved, she had thought then. Too interested in every detail of their family life, asking questions that seemed to be more than just his job. She watched him now as he told volunteers where to search on the maps. His finger moved across the map, and she saw something that made her stomach tighten. He was telling teams to stay away from the northern part, just like he had during the first search. "That area is too dangerous," she heard him telling a group of eager volunteers. "The ground isn't stable. There are old mining shafts. We'll stick to the marked trails for now." But June remembered that area. They had hiked there with the girls many times. There were no mining shafts, no unstable ground, just thick forest and a few big rocks that Sophie had loved to climb. "Detective Harrison." June went up to the detective, who was talking with other officers. "Can I speak with you for a moment?" She pulled him to the side, looking back to make sure Mitchell couldn't hear. "That ranger, Mitchell, he's doing the same thing he did 14 years ago, telling people to stay away from certain areas." Detective Harrison looked where she was looking. "Tom Mitchell, he's been a great help in organizing the volunteers. He knows this forest better than anyone." "That's just it," June insisted. "During the first search, he knew so many details about our family's habits. He knew what time we usually came for picnics, where the girls liked to play, which trails we liked. I thought it was strange then, but everyone said I was just upset, looking for someone to blame." The detective's face stayed neutral. "Did he ever do anything specifically suspicious? Any strange contact with your daughters?" "No, but—" June found it hard to explain the creepy feeling Mitchell gave her. "He was always the one to comfort me during the search, always asking about the girls' habits, their favorite games. And he was the last person to see them that day. He checked the picnic area about 20 minutes before we realized they were gone." "Mrs. Morrison, I understand your worries," Detective Harrison said carefully. "But without real proof, I can't do anything based on a gut feeling. Mitchell has a perfect record. He's helped with dozens of searches over the years. Before June could answer, a shadow fell over them. Mitchell was standing there, his wrinkled face showing concern. "June Morrison," he said, his voice having that same overly familiar tone she remembered. "I heard you were back. I'm so very sorry about Sophie. I want you to know I never stopped thinking about your girls. Not one day has gone by that I haven't wondered." He reached out as if to touch her arm, and June automatically stepped back. Mitchell's eyes showed something for a second: annoyance, hurt, before going back to their sympathetic look. "I'd like to help however I can," he went on. "In fact, I could show you the exact spot where the girls were last seen playing. Sometimes going back to a place can make you remember things, details that might have been missed. I have a break in an hour if you'd like me to walk you through it." "That's kind of you," Marcus cut in, coming to June's side. "But we're not ready for that yet." Mitchell nodded like he understood, but his eyes stayed on June. "Of course. Whenever you're ready, I'll be here. I'm always here." As he walked away, June grabbed Marcus's hand. "There's something wrong with him. I felt it then, and I feel it now." Marcus squeezed back. "I know, but the detective is right. We need proof. For now, let's just watch and wait." June nodded. But as she watched Mitchell go back to his maps, telling more volunteers to stay away from the northern part with long explanations about safety, she couldn't get rid of the feeling that the answer to her daughter's disappearance had been right. In front of them all along, June was making coffee for what felt like the 100th time when she heard a car door slam outside. Through the kitchen window, she saw her brother Daniel getting out of his SUV, his face looking worried. He had made the 6-hour drive from the city very fast. Daniel pulled her into a strong hug as soon as she opened the door. "Left everything as soon as I heard. I can't believe they found Sophie. But Emma, there's still hope for Emma, right?" June nodded against his shoulder, feeling better with her younger brother there. Daniel had always been very protective of the girls, the fun uncle who brought too many gifts and taught them card games when the family got together. "The police are making the search bigger," she managed to say. "They think whoever took them might have kept Emma. Then we'll find her," Daniel said with certainty. "Whatever it takes." In just a few hours, the vacation house turned into a busy main office. More family arrived in groups. Cousins June hadn't seen in years. Marcus's sister from the coast. Old friends who had helped search 14 years ago. The quiet, dusty rooms were filled with voices, supplies, and an energy that came from both sadness and hope. June's aunt took over the kitchen and organized food for the search volunteers with great efficiency. Neighbors brought food and big coffee pots. Someone set up a phone tree. The dining room table was covered with maps, each section marked with coordinates and given to search teams. At the ranger station meeting that afternoon, Detective Harrison talked to the group of volunteers. Daniel stood near the front, listening carefully as the detective explained the search areas. "The remains were found here," Detective Harrison said, pointing to a spot on the large map. "We're spreading out in all directions, but we're paying close attention to areas that look similar. Old trees, not many people walking through." Daniel raised his hand. "Can you tell us more about the metal detector discovery? What setting found the thermos?" The detective looked surprised by the technical question. The blogger's video showed he was using a setting to find known iron metals. The reading was 99. "That's very high," Daniel said, thinking. "Stainless steel would definitely make it do that. Do we have other detectors?" Different kinds might find other metal things, like zippers, buttons, or jewelry the girls might have been wearing. June felt a wave of thankfulness for her brother's practical thinking. While others were emotional, Daniel was focused on methods, on real ways to help. "We have several detection units available," Detective Harrison confirmed. "Teams who know how to use them will be sent out to specific spots." June noticed Park Ranger Mitchell watching their family group from across the room. His eyes were especially on Daniel. When volunteers started signing up for search areas, Daniel went right to the list for the northern part. "I'll take section N7, Daniel said, pointing to the area Mitchell had said was dangerous earlier. Mitchell quickly stepped in. "That's rough land, not a good idea for regular searchers. Maybe you'd be better suited too. I'm an experienced hiker." Daniel cut him off. "I was in a mountaineering club in college. I can handle rough land." Mitchell's jaw got tight, but before he could argue more, other volunteers had already started signing up for the areas next to it. June watched them with interest. Why was Mitchell so set on keeping people away from that area? The search started at dawn the next morning. June joined her brother's team with Marcus and several cousins. They moved through the forest in a careful line an arm's length from each other, their eyes looking at the ground for any sign of evidence. 3 hours in, a volunteer named Carol called out with excitement, "I found something. Look, it's a ribbon." Everyone came to the spot. Stuck on a low branch was a small hair ribbon, faded and old, but she could still see it was pink. Daniel pushed forward with the others and kneeled down to look at it closely. Could this be Emma's? "June, do you remember if she wore hair ribbons?" June looked at the piece of cloth, her heart racing. "She did, but I can't tell if this is hers. It could have been here for years, from anyone." "Still, we should bag it," Daniel said. "Every piece of evidence is important, right?" As the police photographer took pictures of the find, June noticed Mitchell had shown up nearby, even though he was supposed to be in charge of a different area. He stood at the edge of the forest, watching their group closely. When she looked at him, he gave her that same concerned smile before disappearing back into the trees. "Marcus," June whispered to her husband, "Mitchell keeps showing up wherever we are. Don't you think that's strange?" But Marcus wasn't listening. He was watching Daniel, who had moved away from the group and was walking back and forth near the edge of the forest with his cell phone pressed to his ear. June couldn't hear what he was saying, but his body language showed he was upset as he ran one hand through his hair over and over. After a few minutes, Daniel put his phone in his pocket and came to them. "Hey, I need to go back to town, to get some supplies for the search teams. Water bottles, energy bars, first aid kits. We're running low." "I'll come with you," Marcus offered. "It's a lot to carry by yourself." No, Daniel said quickly. "You should stay here with June. I'll be faster by myself. There's something I need to check on anyway. A work thing. Even with everything going on, some problems can't wait." June watched her brother hurry back toward the parking lot, his rush seeming a bit much for just getting supplies. Behind her, she could feel more than see Mitchell watching their family situation with interest. "Did Daniel seem strange to you?" Marcus asked quietly. June wanted to say yes, but her attention was pulled back to Mitchell, who was now talking into his radio, his eyes still following Daniel as he left. Everyone was watching everyone, she realized. Sophie's discovery had broken open their quiet sadness. And now suspicion was leaking through. Like water finding cracks in a stone, June's supply list was crinkled in her hand as she drove into town. The search teams were using up water and first aid supplies faster than anyone had thought. She had offered to go to the pharmacy, partly to help, but mostly to get away from the heavy feeling of the house, where every corner had memories. As she turned into the shopping center, she saw Daniel's black SUV right away. But instead of being parked in one of the many spots near the pharmacy's front door, it was by itself in the back of the lot, backed into the spot as if ready for a fast getaway. Strange, Daniel had said he was going to his house 40 minutes away for an important work call. June pulled into a spot in the front and sat for a minute, a feeling of unease on her neck. Why would Daniel lie about where he was going, and why park so strangely? She grabbed her purse, deciding she would go in and see if he needed anything. For the search? The automatic doors opened with a whoosh, letting out a rush of cold air. June walked through the aisles, expecting to find Daniel in the snack section getting energy bars. Instead, she saw him at the pharmacy counter in the back, with a basket full to the top at his feet. She stopped behind a display of vitamins to watch. Daniel was putting the things from his basket onto the counter. Large packages of feminine hygiene products, several boxes of them, big bottles of antiseptic, gauze, bandages, medical tape, cases of protein bars, and enough bottled water to fill a bunker. "That's quite a lot," the pharmacist said as she started to scan the items. "This is your third big purchase this week, isn't it? Are you stocking a shelter or something?" Daniel's laugh sounded forced. "Something like that. It's just, hurricane season is coming up. I like to be prepared." Hurricane season in the mountains. The pharmacist raised an eyebrow but kept scanning. June stepped back further into the aisle. Why would Daniel need so many feminine hygiene products? He lived alone, had been divorced for 5 years, and this was his third large purchase. "Will that be all?" the pharmacist asked. "That will be $487.23. Daniel fumbled for his wallet, and that's when he saw June. His face showed several different feelings, one after another: surprise, alarm, then a fake smile. "June, what are you doing here?" She stepped out from behind the display. "Getting supplies for the search teams. I saw your car and thought I'd see if you needed anything." Her eyes looked at the bags the pharmacist was filling. "That's a lot of supplies." "Oh, this." Daniel's face turned red. "I'm donating to a women's shelter. They sent out a request for supplies. You know me, always trying to help." The lie was so clear it hung in the air between them. June had never known Daniel to volunteer for anything, and his nervous energy made her skin crawl. "I really need to get going," Daniel said quickly, pushing his credit card at the pharmacist. "That work call, can't keep the client waiting." He grabbed the bags in a hurry, juggling them as he rushed to the exit. June followed, watching him hurry to his SUV. He fumbled with his keys and dropped one of the bags. He bent down to pick it up. The automatic back door opened, and June saw what was inside. New padlocks still in their packages, a coil of yellow rope, more cases of water. Daniel threw the bags in quickly and slammed the door shut, but not before June saw everything. He got into the driver's seat without saying another word and drove out of the parking lot so fast he left tire marks. That evening, June couldn't focus on anything. She just pushed the food someone had brought around her plate as Marcus talked about how the day's search had gone. Daniel was acting so strange today, she finally cut in. At the pharmacy, he bought all these supplies: feminine products, medical supplies, enough food and water for months. And there were padlocks in his car, and rope. Marcus put down his fork. Maybe he's seeing someone he hasn't told us about. You know how private Daniel can be about his relationships? Marcus, he was buying large packages of feminine hygiene products, cases of them, and the pharmacist said it was his third big purchase this week. Who needs that much? I don't know. June? Everyone is on edge. Maybe he's just... And he keeps asking about police procedures. June went on. Today, he wanted to know about how evidence is collected, the chain of custody. Yesterday, it was about how long DNA lasts in different conditions. Why would he need to know that? Marcus reached for her hand. You're tired. We all are. Daniel's just trying to help in his own way. Maybe he's over-preparing because he feels helpless, like we all do. June wanted to believe him, but as she lay in bed that night, she couldn't stop thinking about the supplies in Daniel's car. His guilty face when she had caught him at the pharmacy, the way he had run away like a man with secrets to hide. Everyone was watching Park Ranger Mitchell. But what if they were looking in the wrong direction? June stared at the ceiling, watching shadows from the pine trees outside move across the old wooden beams. Next to her, Marcus's breathing was deep and steady, but she couldn't sleep at all. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Daniel's guilty face at the pharmacy, the padlocks in his car, the way he had run away like a criminal caught in the act. At 3 a.m., she couldn't take it anymore. She shook Marcus's shoulder gently. "Marcus, wake up, please. I need to talk to you." He woke up, groggy. "What's wrong? Is it about the search?" "It's about Daniel." The words came out in a rush in the dark room. "I can't stop thinking about how he's acting, the pharmacy supplies. The way he keeps disappearing at set times, his nervous energy. Something's not right." Marcus sat up, rubbing his eyes. "June, he's your brother. You've known him your whole life. That's just it." June turned on the lamp by the bed and took out her phone. "Earlier, I was looking through old photos on my cloud storage, trying to find more pictures of the girls for the police. Look at this." She showed him photo after photo. Daniel at the vacation house for the 4th of July. Daniel at their Easter egg hunt. Daniel in the background of pictures she didn't even remember him being in. "He visited way more often than I remembered," June said. "Sometimes he would just show up. He didn't need an invitation. He knew our routines, when we'd be here, where the girls liked to play." June.
Marcus's voice had a warning tone.
"I know how it sounds." She pressed her hands against her eyes. "But remember what Detective Harrison said during the first investigation? It's often the person you would never expect, the one you'd never think of. This is Daniel we're talking about. He loved the girls, maybe too much." The words felt like poison coming out of her mouth. Today, he asked specifically about whether police dogs would be used in tomorrow's search. He said he was allergic, but Marcus, Daniel, has never been allergic to dogs. Remember, he had that German Shepherd for years. They sat in silence for a few minutes, the heavy feeling of suspicion settling between them like a third person in the room. Even if something's off," Marcus said carefully, "we can't just accuse him based on weird shopping and nervous behavior. Everyone's acting strange right now. Look at Mitchell. You're convinced he's involved too. What if we just talk to him?" June suggested. "Tomorrow morning, we'll go to his house, get things out in the open. If there are good reasons for everything, then we'll know. We can't have these suspicions behind his back." Marcus nodded slowly. "You're right. It's better to deal with it directly. But June, we have to be careful how we do this. If we're wrong, I'll destroy my relationship with my brother." "I know." June's voice was barely a whisper. "But if we're right and we do nothing." They agreed to visit Daniel first thing in the morning before the search started again. June finally fell asleep around 5 a.m. Her dreams full of metal detectors screaming numbers and Daniel's SUV driving away into the darkness. She woke up to Marcus's phone ringing over and over. Sunlight was coming through the windows. They had overslept. Detective Harrison. Marcus answered, his voice still full of sleep. "Yes, this is Marcus Morrison." June watched her husband's face change as he listened, becoming awake and worried. "Right now, but we were about to." He paused, listening. "No, I understand. Evidence about my work friends. I don't understand what that could mean." June sat up, mouthing, "What's happening?" Marcus covered the phone. "They need me at the station right away. Something about new evidence that might be connected to people from my office 14 years ago." "Both of us?" "No. He specifically asked for me to come alone. He says it's sensitive information." Marcus was already getting dressed. "I'm sorry. I know we were going to talk to Daniel." "Go," June said, even though a feeling of unease twisted in her stomach. This could be important. Marcus kissed her forehead. I'll be back as fast as I can. Maybe wait for me before going to Daniel's. But as June heard the car drive away, she knew she couldn't wait. The questions were eating her up inside. She would go to Daniel's house just to talk. What could be wrong with talking to her own brother? She got dressed quickly, trying to ignore the voice in her head that was whispering warnings. Daniel was. Family, there had to be innocent reasons for everything. There had to be. June pulled into Daniel's driveway, her hands shaking a little on the steering wheel. His house was on 5 acres of wooded land that their father had left him, far enough from neighbors to have complete privacy. She had always thought it was strange that Daniel chose to live so alone after his divorce, but now the quiet felt scary. Daniel answered the door, still in his pajamas, clearly surprised. "June, what are you doing here so early? We need to talk," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "About yesterday? About everything." His face changed to a look of concern. "Of course. Come in. I'll make tea." She followed him through the familiar rooms, pictures of family get-togethers on the hallway walls. There she was with baby Emma. There were the girls with Daniel at Christmas. Normal family photos that now felt wrong because of her suspicions. In the kitchen, Daniel filled the kettle, his movements precise and calm. "I know I've been acting strangely," he said, without turning around. This whole situation with Sophie, the search for Emma, it's bringing up a lot of feelings. June made a non-committal sound, her eyes looking around the kitchen. That's when she saw them. Receipts scattered on the counter near his laptop. She moved closer while Daniel was busy with mugs and tea bags. Industrial padlocks from a hardware store, multiple packages, soundproofing foam panels. Her stomach dropped as she read the list of items. Why would anyone need soundproofing materials? Another receipt caught her eye. Heavy-duty plastic sheeting. Industrial bleach. Lie. Through the kitchen window, something else got her attention. In the far corner of the yard, partly hidden by overgrown bushes, was the old storm shelter. She had forgotten it was there. Their father had built it during the Cold War fear of the 1960s, a strong concrete structure built into the ground. Daniel had said he had sealed it up years ago, called it a danger, but the plants around the entrance had been recently cleared. Finding anything interesting? June spun around. Daniel was standing right behind her, no longer by the stove. His face had changed. The concerned brother look was gone, replaced by something cold and strange. "I was just..." June pointed weakly at the receipts. "These were sitting here. You always were too nosy." His hand moved casually to the knife. "Block on the counter. It's always looking around where you shouldn't, just like that day at the picnic." "What?" June's mouth went dry. "You should have been watching them." His fingers wrapped around the handle of a large kitchen knife. "Instead, you were so focused on cleaning up, making everything perfect." Back and forth to the car, leaving them alone. "Daniel, what are you saying?" "They were so beautiful, June. So perfect and innocent. I watched them grow every visit, every family get-together. Emma with those big brown eyes. Sophie so smart and full of life." His voice had taken on a dreamy tone that made her skin crawl. "They were meant to be kept like that, protected, kept safe from the ugly world." June moved toward the door. "I need to call Marcus." Daniel moved faster than she thought he could, blocking her way. The knife shone in his hand. "You're not going anywhere. You always ruin everything. You always have to meddle. Daniel, please. They were mine." He exploded, spit flying from his mouth. "I loved 'em more than you ever could. You and Marcus, so careless with such special gifts. That day at the picnic, when I saw them alone, it was like a sign. The perfect moment I had been waiting for." June's legs felt like they would give out. "You took them. You took my babies. I saved them. His face twisted with angry righteousness. Saved them from growing up in this filthy world, from becoming disappointed and bitter like everyone else. He grabbed her arm with his free hand, the knife pressing against her ribs. Come on, since you're so curious about my shopping, let me show you what it's for. He forced her out the back door and across the yard toward the shelter. June's mind raced, looking for a way to escape, but Daniel kept the knife pressed firmly against her side. For 14 years, I kept her perfect. He rambled as they walked. My little Emma. Sophie was too difficult, too strong, always crying for you. But Emma was young enough to forget, to learn that Uncle Danny was her whole world now. He fumbled with a heavy padlock on the shelter door, then pushed it open. Concrete steps led down into darkness. The smell of damp dirt and something else, the smell of a person living there, came up. Move, he ordered, forcing her down the steps. Battery-powered LED lights gave a dim light. As June's eyes got used to it, the horror of what she was seeing hit her like a physical punch. The space had been turned into a living area, if you could call it that. A chemical toilet in one corner, stacks of canned food, and cases of water. Along one wall, a small bed with leather straps attached to the frame. And in the far corner, huddled on a pile of blankets, was a young woman. Uncle Danny. The voice was high, like a child's, even though it came from an 18-year-old body. Who is she? I don't like strangers. June's knees gave out. Even after 14 years, even with hollow cheeks and tangled hair, she knew that face. Emma, she whispered. Emma tilted her head, confused. How does she know my name? Uncle Danny. You said no one else knows about me? You said I'm your secret, special girl. The shelter door slammed shut above them. Daniel's footsteps heavy on the stairs as he came down with a knife still in his hand. The shelter door slammed shut with a loud, metal sound that echoed through June's bones. She heard the padlock click. Shut. Then Daniel's footsteps walking back and forth on the ground above her. His muffled voice came down, the words not clear, but his tone upset, arguing with himself. June turned to her daughter, her baby girl, now a young woman she hardly knew. Emma had pushed herself deeper into the corner, with her arms wrapped around her knees, making herself as small as she could. Emma, sweetheart, June said softly, moving a little closer. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. Uncle Danny doesn't like when I talk to strangers, Emma whispered, her voice high and sing-songy, stuck in childhood. I'm supposed to stay in my corner unless he says it's okay. Are you the police? Uncle Danny says the police want to take me away and hurt me. June's heart broke. No, baby, I'm not the police. I'm not. She couldn't say it. How could she explain she was the mother Emma had been taught to forget? She reached out slowly, but Emma flinched hard, pressing against the concrete wall. No touching. Uncle Danny says no one else can touch me. Only Uncle Danny. I'm his special girl. The programmed answers, the childlike way of talking from an 18-year-old mouth. It was horrifying. June could see the years of training in every move, every word. Her little girl had been systematically broken and remade into Daniel's sick fantasy. Above them, the walking stopped. June heard the padlock rattle. Then the door creaked open. Sunlight poured down the stairs, making a silhouette of Daniel's body. He came down slowly, and June's blood ran cold when she saw what he was carrying. A blue plastic tarp, the kind used on construction sites. A coil of rope. His movements were calm now, as if he had a plan. Time to go, Emma, he said, his voice strangely calm. We're going to take a trip to the forest. The forest, Emma seemed a little happier. Are we going to see the birds? You promised we could see birds someday. That's right. Daniel moved toward her, and June saw the terrible plan in his eyes. But first, You need to take your medicine. The special, sleepy medicine. No, June threw herself between them. You're not touching her. Daniel's face twisted with anger. She's too old now. Don't you understand? She aged out. I kept her as long as I could, but look at her. She's not a little girl anymore. She's ruined. He grabbed Emma's arm roughly, pulling her to her feet. Emma whimpered but didn't fight back, trained to do what she was told. I should have gotten rid of her years ago, Daniel went on, dragging Emma toward the stairs. When she started developing, I was weak. I kept thinking I could keep some part of what she was. Daniel, please, June begged, following them. She's your niece. You loved her. I did love her. That's why she has to go now, while there's still something pure left. His grip on Emma got tighter. Sophie understood too much. Always crying, always fighting. I had to silence her after. Just a few months, but I was smart about it. He paused on the stairs, a horrible pride in his voice. I buried her near the vacation house on purpose, far enough from here that no one would connect it to me, but close enough that when she was eventually found, everyone would assume both girls died together. The perfect trick. It bought me 14 more years with Emma. My husband will be back any minute, June said desperately. The police will be looking for me. Daniel laughed a bitter sound. Marcus at the police station. That'll take hours. All that paperwork, all those questions about his supposed work friends. It's amazing what a secret tip can do. Plenty of time. To drive Emma to the forest, bury her properly, then come back and deal with you. He kept going up the stairs, dragging the confused Emma, who kept asking about the birds they were going to see. June felt a rage building inside her that was stronger than anything she had ever felt before. Not her baby, not again. As Daniel reached the top of the stairs, struggling to handle Emma and the tarp, June threw herself at him with a wild strength. She slammed into his back, making him stumble forward. His grip on Emma loosened, and more importantly, the hunting knife he had in his belt clattered to the concrete floor. June dove for it as Daniel tried to get his balance back. Her fingers closed around the handle just as he realized what had happened. You bitch. He lunged for her, but June was already moving, with adrenaline giving her speed she didn't know she had. She ran up the stairs and into the house, Daniel's footsteps pounding behind her. The landline phone was on the kitchen counter. She grabbed it, her fingers flying over the numbers. 911, what's your emergency? This is June Morrison. I'm at 445 Woodside Drive. My daughter Emma is here. The missing girl from 14 years ago. My brother, Daniel Morrison, kidnapped her. He's the kidnapper. Send police now. Daniel slid to a stop in the kitchen doorway, his face going through different feelings as he realized she had already called for help. The person on the other end was asking questions, but June just kept screaming the address and that her kidnapped daughter was in the shelter. For a moment, Daniel stood frozen. Then his survival instinct took over. He turned and ran, grabbing his car keys from the hook by the door. June heard his SUV engine start with a roar, the tires throwing gravel as he sped out of the driveway. He's running away, June told the person on the phone. It's black SUV, license plate. But she couldn't remember it. My daughter's in the shelter behind the house. She's alive. Please hurry. Dropping the phone, June ran back to the shelter. Emma hadn't moved from the stairs, standing confused where Daniel had left her. Where did Uncle Danny go? She asked sadly. He said we were going to see birds. June gathered her daughter into her arms, feeling how thin she was under the big clothes. Emma stood stiff, not comfortable with the contact, but not fighting it. It's okay, June whispered over and over. You're safe now. You're safe. The sirens came quickly, getting louder, until they filled the air. Police cars poured into the driveway, and officers got out with their guns out until June called out that Daniel had run away. She helped Emma up the stairs and into the daylight. Her daughter raised a pale hand to cover her eyes, squinting in the brightness she rarely saw. "Ma'am, I'm Detective Harrison." The detective came closer carefully, looking at the scene. "Is this Emma?" "When is Uncle Danny coming back?" Emma asked him. "He said we were going somewhere. I don't like when plans change." Detective Harrison's face went professionally blank, but June saw the horror in his eyes. He called for ambulances while more officers arrived. 2 went down into the shelter, and June heard one of them curse loudly. The younger officer came out moments later, his face green, and stumbled to the bushes to be sick. Detective Harrison continued to document the scene, his movements grim and planned. The straps on the bed, the scratch marks on the concrete walls, some old, some new. The calendar where Daniel had marked off days with notes June couldn't make herself read. When the paramedics arrived, they came to Emma slowly, speaking in calm voices. She kept asking for Uncle Danny, wondering if he was mad at her, if she had done something wrong. "You didn't do anything wrong," one paramedic told her while checking her vitals. "You've been very brave." "Uncle Danny says I'm brave when I take my medicine without crying," Emma replied. "Am I going to take medicine now?" That's when Marcus's car screeched into the driveway. He jumped out with wild eyes, having heard something on the police scanner. When he saw Emma alive, standing, but so changed, he broke down completely. "Emma," he sobbed. "Oh God, Emma." Emma tilted her head at him. "Who is that man? Why is he crying? Uncle Danny doesn't like crying. He says it's ugly." The paramedics gently led both June and Emma toward the ambulance, explaining they needed to go to the hospital to be checked. Emma went without a fight, still asking when Uncle Danny would come back, if he would be at the hospital, if she had been a good girl. As the ambulance doors closed, June held her daughter's hand, her living, breathing daughter, who didn't know her at all. The emergency room was busy with controlled activity. As June was wheeled in next to Emma, nurses came right away, their voices calm but urgent. They separated them. June to one area for her bruises and shock, Emma to a secure psychiatric room where specialists were waiting. "I need to stay with her," June protested as they put a blood pressure cuff on her and checked her injuries. "Ma'am, your daughter needs special care right now," the nurse explained gently. "Dr. Patel is our best trauma psychologist. She'll help Emma feel safe." Through the doorway, June could hear Emma's voice, high and confused. "Where's Uncle Danny? He doesn't like hospitals. He says doctors want to steal our secrets." Dr. Patel's answer was too quiet to hear, but her tone was calming and steady. June closed her eyes, holding the bed rails as a doctor checked the bruises on her arms where Daniel had grabbed her. 2 hours went by in a blur of checkups, 4 drips, and police officers coming and going with news. Then Detective Harrison showed up, his face serious but satisfied. "We got him," he said simply. State troopers caught Daniel at a rest stop near the state line. He's in custody. June felt a wave of relief. Is he talking? He's doing more than talking. He's given a full confession. Harrison pulled up a chair. He's trying to avoid the death penalty, trading information for life in prison without parole. The detective opened his notebook and June prepared herself for what was coming. Daniel admitted to struggling with a growing pornography addiction, especially content with young girls. He says the visit to the vacation house 14 years ago wasn't planned. He was driving through the area and decided to stop by on a whim. June's stomach turned. All those unplanned visits over the years suddenly seemed sinister. He saw the girls playing alone while you and your husband were cleaning up. His exact words were that it felt like fate. He went up to them saying you needed them right away, that you'd sent Uncle Danny to get them, and promised them ice cream if they came quickly and quietly. They trusted him, June whispered. He was their uncle. Of course, they went with him. Harrison nodded grimly. He took them straight to the shelter. He had apparently been getting it ready for months, though he says he never planned to actually take anyone, he said. It was just a fantasy until that moment. Through the door, June could hear Emma talking to Dr. Patel. Sometimes I remember a lady who sang songs, but Uncle Danny says that's just dreams. Bad dreams that will go away if I'm good. Both girls were in the shelter at first, Harrison went on. But when we announced we'd be searching all family properties, Daniel panicked. He rented a storage unit in a nearby town using cash and a fake name. He moved the girls there for 3 days until his property was checked. A storage unit. June felt sick. My babies were in a storage unit. Climate controlled. He made sure to mention that, Harrison said with bitterness, like it somehow made it better. The officers who searched his property barely looked at the shelter. It had an old padlock on it. It looked abandoned. They never suspected. Dr. Patel came out of Emma's room and walked toward them carefully. Mrs. Morrison, Emma is stable, but she's deeply traumatized. She's showing signs of Stockholm Syndrome, severe conditioning. She keeps asking for Daniel, calling him her protector. Does she remember anything about before? Fragments. When I said certain words, Mama, Sophie, home, she showed physical reactions. Her heart rate went up. Her pupils got bigger. The memories are there, but they're buried under 14 years of programming. She mentioned a song, a lullaby. She said she hears it sometimes, but Uncle Danny tells her it's not real. Detective Harrison cleared his throat. There's more about Sophie. Daniel says she never got used to it like Emma did. She kept trying to escape. She was constantly asking for you. After about 4 months, when the big searches had slowed down, she managed to break the lock on the shelter while he was at work. She made it to the forest before he caught her. June covered her mouth, imagining her brave 7-year-old running desperately through the trees. He says he panicked, hit her with a rock, and claimed it was an accident. But Harrison just shrugged. He buried her near the vacation house on purpose. He knew the area had a lot of iron in the soil that would set off metal detectors eventually. He included her thermos to make sure she was identified when she was found. He planned for her to be found. He figured it would close the case. Everyone would assume both girls died together, and they would stop looking for Emma. He called it insurance. A noise in the hallway got their attention. Marcus had arrived. Still in the clothes he had worn to the police station, his face looking worn out. When he saw June, he rushed to her. Is it true? Daniel? How could God? June, my own brother-in-law. Detective Harrison stood up. I'll give you folks some privacy, but Mrs. Morrison, there's one more thing. We found supplies in Daniel's car. Tarps, shovels, lye. Based on his purchases and movements, we believe he was planning to kill Emma tonight. You saved her life by showing up when you did. The weight of that settled over them as the detective left. Their daughter had been hours from death. She aged out, June said, feeling numb. That's what he said. She aged out of his attraction. Dr. Patel came back. Would you like to see Emma now? We've given her a light sedative. She was getting upset, but she's awake. They followed her to Emma's room. Their daughter lay in the hospital bed, looking so small, even though she was 18. Her eyes followed their movements, but didn't show any recognition. Emma, June said softly. It's Mom and Dad. Emma's forehead wrinkled. I don't have those. Uncle Danny says I'm special because I only need him. June sat carefully on the edge of the bed, fighting back tears. She began to hum softly the lullaby she had sung every night when Emma was little, the one about mockingbirds and diamond rings. Emma's eyes got a little wider. Her breathing changed. "That song?" she whispered. "I know that song, but it makes Uncle Danny angry when I hum it." June kept humming, reaching slowly for Emma's hand. Her daughter didn't pull away, but she didn't hold back either. Marcus stood on the other side of the bed, tears streaming down his face. "The lady in my dreams sings that song," Emma said, her voice getting sleepy from the sedative. "The pretty lady who smells like flowers. But she's not real." Uncle Danny says she's not real. "She's real, baby," June whispered. "I'm real." Emma's eyes started to close, but June felt it, the smallest squeeze of her fingers. Maybe just a reflex or a muscle memory from a time before the shelter. But it was something. June kept humming the lullaby, the same one from 14 years of empty nights. While machines beeped softly around them, Emma's breathing became even, and every few minutes when June got to the chorus, she felt that tiny squeeze again. Her daughter was in there somewhere, buried under years of trauma and conditioning. It would take time, maybe years, to find her again. But she was alive. After 14 years of not knowing, of imagining the worst. Emma was alive and lying in a hospital bed, sometimes squeezing her mother's hand to the rhythm of a half-remembered song. Outside the room, Detective Harrison was working with other officers, building a strong case against Daniel. Somewhere in a county jail, her brother sat in a cell, his 6 secrets finally out. And somewhere in a forest, searchers were still looking at the ground, making sure there were no other secrets buried in the dirt. But in this moment, in this hospital room, June held her daughter's hand and sang softly while Marcus cried, and Emma drifted between sleep and being awake, sometimes responding to her mother's voice with the smallest pressure of her fingers against June's hand.